Today we're going to talk about BlendStack. BlendStack is the world's only accessibility engine for complex interfaces. We're going to get into what that means, but I'd like to preface by saying that this presentation is actually much longer than what we'll go through today. But it's my hope that you'll understand BlendStack's unique value in the world as part of the larger canon of accessibility tools that are available to us. So if you're a designer like me, you like to push boundaries. Sometimes this means we incorporate gradients, glassmorphic elements like iOS 26, shouts to Apple, or motion to bring our experiences to life and give them some depth or a particular mood or visual richness. Together, we call these elements complex surfaces. And on the surface, pun intended, these are pretty easy to make and they're fun. Our engineers typically don't have challenges with these sorts of elements. But what's particularly difficult is testing their contrast. If we were to look at the MasterCard website on the far left, and if you wanted to know whether or not that white text is readable for users or for people with visual impairments or any sort of color blindness, you'd have to look at how this white text is accessible on top of this orange tinted glassmorphic element on top of that mesh gradient that sits on the background. And well, that's a reasonably difficult test to run because you'd have to composite or smash together this glassmorphic layer and this mesh gradient layer and then test the foreground color on top of that. And the truth is that most contrast checkers on the web cannot do that. At present date, they're very simple. They test solid colors on top of solid colors, just like this example you see here. We have this very light gray dot on top of this black background, yielding a contrast ratio of 12.7. And if you don't really know what that means, it just means that it's fairly bright in terms of its luminance and it has strong contrast, meaning that most people should be able to see it. However, the moment you introduce any sort of complexity, if you put a piece of text or an icon or a button on top of a gradient or an image or a video, you'll get different contrast ratios over the entire surface, which makes it hard to measure. And when you introduce motion, this problem gets compounded. So as we saw, testing is really difficult on complex surfaces like images and those that contain motion. And look, our products have just grown in complexity. It's 2025, but our tools haven't. And that's exactly what my team faced on our current project. And the big problem is that we couldn't look to anywhere on the web for a protocol or practice or anything that could automate this process for us. So we spent a lot of time testing tons of gradients. Actually, we inserted roughly about 1,200 data points into a Google Sheet just to ensure that what we had in our design system was A-OK. And sometimes we produced inconsistent results. Now, at the end of it all, we were able to get something that was precise and as rigorous and as excellent as we needed it to be. But I could only imagine if this were another team who maybe didn't have the capacity or the space to do that type of work. Might that yield costly rework for their engineers, or would they just risk it and ship a product that excludes users? And if you're unfamiliar with the cost of shipping an accessible product, well, just know that there are tens of millions of people in the United States that face accessibility barriers. You can double or triple this number when we think about how many people there are across the world in different nations with different types of tech infrastructure. And the truth is that even big companies like Target, Starbucks, Beyonce, we love Beyonce, Barnes and Nobles, and many more have faced accessibility lawsuits. And that's because WCAG failures continue to persist across the web, even with private and public sector mandates here. But that's where BlendStack really does come in handy. BlendStack is in fact the world's first and only mathematical engine for testing contrast on gradients, liquid glass, and media. We're helping people see things a lot clearer. And I'm doing us no justice by saying it so simply. All right, again, thank you so much. hop over to blendstack.tech, use the tool, let us know how it feels to you, what features you might want to add. And yeah, if you want to support this work, you can also buy us a coffee. We drink lots of it, and we'll probably continue to be drinking lots of it as we uphold it and add more features. Thanks.